Good Wednesday morning. It's September 16th, 2020. I'm Guy McPherson of GuyMcPherson.com, also known as Nature Bats Last. And I'm going to provide a few headlines and indicate where the market is headed as it opens, as the stock markets open in the United States this morning. First, a little comment though. 2 days ago, I indicated we're going to take a break from posting these videos daily, or at least on every weekday. And that's because I was under the distinct impression a lot of people weren't listening. In fact, the title slide for Monday's video says, "Is anyone listening?" Apparently not, judging from the email I've received in the last 2 days. Apparently nobody is listening to what I've been saying for many years, that we are in the midst of abrupt, irreversible climate change. And that presents very few options for us as a society. As individuals, our options remain the same. We can act like decent people, or we can act like most Americans. Let's start with the headlines, mostly from yesterday after the markets closed. From the Los Angeles Times, extraordinary heat, rare summer snow brought unprecedented West Coast firestorms. Well, who would have imagined? Who possibly could have predicted? Oh, that's right. I've been predicting this for years. This is one of the many self-reinforcing feedback loops mentioned in my very long essay, updated for several years at GuyMcPherson.com, called Climate Change Summary Update. It has a tab of its own. And the only part of those firestorms that matters to most Americans comes in this headline from MarketWatch. There's $120 billion worth of commercial property debt threatened by West Coast fires. Because nothing matters like money matters. And I've frequently pointed out the relationship between industrial activity and climate change. And so I'm not going to do that this time again. Moving on, the Wall Street Journal, who pays for COVID-19 medical care? That depends on how or if you are insured. Of course it does. It's not as if Wall Street has ever expressed any significant concern for Main Street, and most of us on Main Street are facing these critical issues like healthcare during the midst of a pandemic. From Reuters, this is also from yesterday, retirements, layoffs, labor force flight may leave scars on U.S. economy. You think? You think they might leave scars on U.S. economy? Yeah. I think you're onto something there, Reuters. From MarketWatch, stock market's 7% pullback? Question mark. Get ready for more as a 2009 style stair-step rally continues, says Wall Street bull. So if you're bullish, we're headed for a stair-step rally. A little ratchet up and then it'll ratchet up. But remember what happened in 2008, 2009. Remember what happened in 1929. That's where we're headed, or worse, as the figures actually indicate. From ProPublica, the big corporate rescue and the America that's too small to save. The big corporate rescue, and in contrast, the America that's too small to save. And what's too small to save is most of us, and certainly those smaller companies. From Fox Business, SEC, that's the Securities and Exchange Commission, opens probe as GM, that's General Motors, CEO Mary Barra defends Nikola partnership. So a probe is being opened. That can't be good for GM stock. Speaking of things not good for GM stock, this from the Washington Post. More bars and restaurants are allowed to reopen despite risks. This is like the schools opening. You think that's a swift idea? The schools open and suddenly there's way more cases and people are getting sick. And nobody on Wall Street gives a shit about any of those people. Those are the little people that are getting sick. The people on Wall Street and the Trumpers couldn't care less if you get sick, as long as they make a buck. From CNBC, Federal Reserve will stay on hold until 2023, according to CNBC survey. On hold till 2023. I think a lot of things are on hold until 2023. Maybe life as we know it will be put on hold sometime before that. It certainly would surprise me if that didn't happen. From Reuters, again yesterday, oil industry paints grimmer picture of pandemic's harm to demand. Demand of oil is on the slide down. Of course it is, because again, we're in the midst of a pandemic. Again, we're in the midst of abrupt, irreversible climate change. Again, we're in the midst of a mass extinction event. All of that says no money for the big oil companies, or at least reduce money for the big oil companies, because nobody can afford to buy gas anymore. Even if you drop the price down to $1.39, as I've seen recently in this area, it's still too expensive and nobody's going anywhere anyway. Where are you going to go? You can't afford a hotel. But I digress. From Bloomberg, Fed's lifeline to Main Street flops with 99.8% of cash untapped. And here's the lead. It was billed as a lifeline for America's middle market companies seeking cash to get through the pandemic. Yet more than 2 months since its launch, the Federal Reserve's Main Street lending program isn't living up to expectations, as few banks are willing to provide the loans. Few banks are willing to provide the loans mandated by the Federal Reserve. Well, there you go. If you need to know anything more about the relationship between Wall Street and Main Street, then clearly you're not paying attention. Clearly you're among those people not listening. That was an unknown caller. I'm not even going to answer. From the Washington Post, the Fed encounters limits to its recession response. At some point you run out of ammunition, and the Federal Reserve is there, as nearly as I can tell. They're out of ammunition. It's difficult to lower the prime rate below 0%, unless you start giving away, oh wait, they've been giving away money for years. Oh, that unknown caller left me a voicemail message. I can't wait to listen to that. Maybe we'll all listen to, no, never mind. From Market Insider this morning, billionaire investor Ray Dalio warns the U.S. is in a period of great risk and says the most important thing investors can do is diversify. I would suggest the most important thing investors can do is live fully in your final days, weeks, months. But I'm not Ray Dalio, so nobody listens to me. This morning from E&E News, posted at Scientific American, a new Arctic is emerging thanks to climate change. Well, I would actually say a new Arctic is emerging, and it's catastrophically dire for all life on Earth thanks to abrupt, irreversible climate change. But that's just my spin on the headline. Obviously, E&E News and Scientific American have a slightly different spin on the headline. So, yet again, horrible news. Yet again, as with the last 2 trading days, the stock market's open higher. They finished higher the last couple of days as well. So the Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 70 points, NASDAQ is up 34, the S&P 500 is up 12 points, and it's 9:33 Eastern time, so the market's open 3 minutes ago with a 30-minute lag since I get the news. So, seems nothing ever changes, and few people listen. You'd think I'd figure this out.